You ever see a courtroom turn upside down in one heartbeat? I mean, you think you've seen people shocked before, but that day, every face in that room, prosecutors, defense, jury, even the guards, they went from stone-cold routine to wide-eyed, jaw-dropped in the space of 3 sentences. Let me back up a sec, because you gotta understand the setup to appreciate just how crazy it got. That morning started like any other sentencing hearing. You know, harsh lights, echoing shoes, the metallic stink of handcuffs, everyone just going through motions, nobody expecting a miracle, least of all Judge Raymond Callahan. 62 years old, a decade stuck in that black wheelchair. All the court saw was another case number, another career criminal. They didn't see a father, they didn't care about his story, not really. The prosecutor stood up, slick and rehearsed, talking about 15 years minimum, talking about how Darius lied, how he wasted the court's time with nonsense about being set up, about nobody believing his side. Even his own public defender had nothing left to say. Her eyes were on the clock, not the client. And Judge Callahan, he was just waiting to swing the hammer, ready to make an example. You know what I mean? Then it happened. The kind of moment that stops time, that nobody can prepare for, and nobody, not even old Callahan, could control. The heavy doors creaked open, and, get this, in walks this little girl, no more than 7, skinny legs, sky blue dress, 2 braids bouncing with each step. No parent, no security, just her. I mean, people started muttering, wondering where she came from, how she got past everyone. Nobody stopped her. She just walked straight down the aisle, right up to the bench, and looked that judge dead in the eye. And what she said, man, it was the kind of line you'd think only happens in movies. She said, "Let my daddy go and I'll make you walk." I swear to you, there was this half-second silence. Then the room just lost it. People snorted. One prosecutor let out a real laugh. Even the guard's mouth curled. Callahan looked so confused, blinking at this kid like he'd never seen anything so bold. He tried to shut it down, told the bailiff to remove her, but Darius, for the first time that day, stood halfway up and begged, "Please, let her speak." Callahan didn't like being challenged, but even he could feel the shift, the attention in the room pinning him in place. So he asked her name, and she just said Hope, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. No one moved. I mean, everyone felt it, that weight, that sense this was about to go somewhere you couldn't script. She kept going, telling the judge that he hadn't listened. Not really. She just stepped closer. "You want to walk, don't you?" she asked. For a second, he looked like he was about to explode. Then, he just stared. He said, "That's none of your concern." But the girl kept coming, saying how she wasn't there to scare him. She was just asking for a chance, for mercy, for something real. And then, this part I'll never forget, she reached out her hand. Not touching, just holding it out, like she was offering him something invisible. Callahan went pale, his hands gripping the wheels of his chair, and then, I swear to God, you could see it in his face. He started to feel something in his legs, a heat, a tingle, something he hadn't felt since the accident. He looked down, probably thinking he was dreaming. But you could see it, this flicker of hope, of something breaking loose. Everyone in the room was glued to the scene. The bailiffs were glancing at each other, unsure whether to intervene. The judge tried to laugh it off, but even he couldn't deny what he felt. The warmth moving up his legs, the sensation returning. And then, call it what you will, he moved his right foot. The gasp that went through the courtroom? Man, chills. The left foot followed, slow, shaky, but definitely moving. The judge stood, first time in 10 years, and the place exploded. Chairs scraped. People gasped, some screamed, some prayed. Even the prosecutor just stood there, mouth open, lost for words. Hope smiled, as calm as ever, and said, "Now please give me back my dad." Callahan collapsed back into the chair, more from shock than failure, whispering to himself, "This is impossible." But suddenly nobody was laughing, nobody was doubting. The courtroom shifted, just like that. The power, the mood, the whole sense of what was right. Callahan looked at Darius's file, for the first time actually reading, finding holes, gaps. No real evidence, anonymous tips, no victim willing to testify. "Bring me the arresting officer's report," he ordered. The room buzzed as documents shuffled. The truth started seeping out, fabricated testimony, Inconsistencies everywhere. It all unraveled. Within an hour, Judge Callahan reversed his judgment. His voice shook as he stood, really stood, on his own 2 feet, and cleared Darius of all charges, apologized, said his record would be expunged. Hope ran to her father, who dropped to his knees, chains still clanking, hugging her tight and whispering. She did what she promised. Callahan, trembling, approached them. He wanted to know how she did it, what had happened. Darius, still holding his daughter, just looked the judge in the eye and said, "She didn't heal you. She reminded you that you could heal yourself." Callahan couldn't process it, kept shaking his head. But you could see something inside him had changed. Maybe he believed, maybe not. But he'd never be the same. The judge ordered Darius's chains removed, the bailiff's hands shaking as the metal hit the floor. Darius picked Hope up, tears streaming down both faces. And as they walked to the doors, Callahan called out, "Hope." She turned back, that little smile still there. "Thank you." She nodded and said, "Now maybe you can believe." And you know what? As they left, the room stayed silent. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody wanted to break the moment, because for once, justice felt like more than just a word. Like maybe, just maybe, the world could change. If only you dared to believe in something bigger than yourself. So what do you think? Was it a miracle, or just a lesson we all needed? I want to hear what you have to say. Do you think justice was served, or did the system just get lucky? Drop your thoughts below, share your story. Tell us if you've ever seen something that made you believe again, even for just one day. That's what keeps this conversation alive. Your voice, your truth. Stay curious, stay kind. And I'll see you in the next story. But let me tell you, the real story didn't end when Hope and Darius walked out of that courthouse. If anything, that's when the questions really started to chase everyone, especially Judge Callahan. People talk about miracles like they're a one-time thing, a flash in the pan. You see it, you doubt it, and then you move on. But this was different, because every single person in that room walked out changed. Some were scared, some were inspired, some just confused as hell. And Callahan, well, he couldn't sleep that night. He found himself at his kitchen table, staring at his own legs, flexing his toes under the pale glow of the fridge light, trying to convince himself it was real, that he could actually stand if he wanted. And he kept replaying that little girl's words, "Now maybe you can believe," over and over, like a dare, like a warning. The phone started ringing, reporters, lawyers, even some old friends who'd written him off years ago, all wanting the inside scoop. "Is it true, Ray? Are you really walking?" He didn't know what to say. Because what do you say when your whole life flips in a day? Meanwhile, word spread through the city. You know how these things go. First it's gossip, then it's headlines. The judge who walked. Some called it a hoax, others whispered about witchcraft. But a handful of folks, the ones who'd lost faith long ago, started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was still something magic left in the world. The prosecutor, who'd always believed in facts and nothing else, demanded an investigation. Wanted Darius and Hope followed. Wanted proof there'd been no trickery. The bailiffs were questioned, security tapes reviewed, but all anyone could see was that a little girl walked in, spoke, and left with her dad, while the judge did the impossible. And then, out of nowhere, a new character shows up, a woman in a crisp gray suit, silver hair and a tight bun, introducing herself as Ms. Riley from Child Protective Services. She tracked Hope and Darius to a tiny motel off Route 19, showing up at dawn, clipboard in hand, her tone all business. "I need to speak to you about your daughter," she said. Darius, just out of jail, barely had time to catch his breath. He braced for the worst, someone always wanting to take Hope away, always threatening to split them up just when things looked bright. But Ms. Riley surprised him. She sat with Hope in the dingy motel lobby, away from Darius, and asked her questions. Not about magic or miracles, but about dreams. What did she see when she closed her eyes? Who taught her to believe? And Hope, never shy, told her about her mom, how she died when Hope was 3, about the nights she'd whisper to the stars, asking for help, about the feeling in her hands when someone needed her. "It's like light, but warmer," she said. Ms. Riley didn't write any of that down, just listened, nodding, her own eyes welling up a little. She left without a word about custody, just told Darius, "Take care of her. Not everyone gets a second chance." Back at the courthouse, things kept unraveling. The prosecutor, frustrated, tried to overturn Callahan's ruling, but every avenue hit a wall. Nobody wanted to be the one to challenge a judge who could walk again, whose face was now all over national TV. The anonymous tip that started Darius's case turned out to come from a payphone, voice disguised, no way to trace it. Almost like someone wanted him locked up, but never expected a child to change the ending. But the craziest part, here's the twist nobody saw coming, was that Callahan, now able to stand, didn't just go back to work the same old way. He started visiting other courtrooms, sometimes just sitting in the back row, watching, listening. People noticed, judges, lawyers, defendants. He paid special attention to cases that looked like Darius's, cases built on shaky evidence, defendants with nobody in their corner. One day, he even showed up at a juvenile detention center, asked to meet with some of the kids, just to hear their stories. No black robe, no gavel, just a man with a limp and a new sense of purpose. And that's where the legend started to grow, you know? Rumors that Judge Callahan would sometimes take off his shoes and walk the courtroom barefoot, just to remind himself he could, or that he'd pause a hearing and ask, out of the blue, "Is there anyone here who believes in miracles?" Some thought he was losing it, but a few, especially the ones who'd lost everything, started lining up outside his chambers, hoping to talk, hoping to find their own hope. Darius and his daughter? They disappeared for a while, staying under the radar, but every so often, stories would surface. A diner waitress swearing she saw Hope touch an old man's hand, and his arthritis vanished. A teacher claiming Hope could calm the wildest kid in class just by holding their gaze. Nothing provable, nothing you could show on TV, but the kind of rumors that keep people up at night, make them wonder if faith is really gone, or just waiting for someone to reach out and grab it. And as for Callahan, some say he never fully explained what happened that day, not to his colleagues, not even to his family. When asked, he'd just shrug and say, "Sometimes the universe gives you a second chance. What matters is what you do with it." But you could always see it in his eyes. Whenever he looked at a child walking through his courtroom, this tiny flicker of hope, like maybe, if you looked hard enough, you'd see the world differently, too. So here's the thing. What would you do if you saw a miracle? Would you believe, or would you look away, afraid of being fooled? Is justice about facts, or about having the courage to give someone a real second chance? I want to know what you think. Drop a comment below. Let's talk about what justice means, about faith, about the moments that change everything. And if you've ever witnessed something impossible, something you couldn't explain, share it, because maybe the world needs more stories like this.